Library. I'm Paul Jusick from the Saturday Afternoon Poets. And just to tell you a little bit about the Saturday Afternoon Poets, my good friend and fellow poet Sal BUTTACI and I founded the Saturday Afternoon Poets in 1996 as a way of bringing poetry out into the local New Jersey libraries. And we also do poetry readings at various coffee houses and schools in the area. Among them, the Cafe Decor, formerly the Specialty Cup in Ridgewood. And this is a very special evening because it's a joint presentation of both the Saturday Afternoon Poets by Sal BUTTACI and myself, and also in conjunction with the New Jersey Poetry Society and with the Traveling Art Poetry Showcase, headed and founded by our good friend and fellow poet Jack DeLuca Gross. I would like to introduce my fellow featured poet tonight. He's an educator from Garfield, New Jersey. He's from Lodi, and he has published numerous books of poetry over the years. His most recent books are Promising the Moon, which is a collection of poetry, and A Family of Sicilians, which is a collection of both stories and poems. And he is the past editor of New Worlds Unlimited, which is a poetry anthology, which he edited in the middle to late 70s and early 80s. And he is also the past editor of Poet Tidings, which is the official newsletter of the New Jersey Poetry Society. He's a very talented writer, and if you've heard Sal read before, you know what a talented reader and writer he is. If you've never heard Sal read before, you're in for a treat. So please welcome my fellow poet, co-founder of the Saturday Afternoon Poets, Sal Amico BUTTACI.
Thank you, Paul. It's always a pleasure to come to people and read. I have some poems, different kinds of poems, and many of them appropriate, for Valentine's Day. So I would like to lead off with a poem my wife wrote for this occasion. And the poem of Sharon BUTTACI is called Touch. A soft touch of love, always near, your smile lights the shadows in my heart. Everywhere candy, hearts and flowers, this day for lovers to show they care. In all our trials, our love shines through. Your monument to our love, ready to complete me. Thank you, Sharon. Something will be said. This poem will write itself. Ink will seep from a pen, draw letters in the blood of black and blue. We'll dance or march or lie there seething. Something will be said. It will lay down bones, connive the unsuspecting to tear at scars and make them wounds again. It will say, once was not enough to die at the murdering hand of love. This poem, without stutter, will tactlessly say it all. Hold it up to the light. Shake free a younger you buried in a muted box. A sorry you warehoused in the dust of your poemless past. The next poem is entitled For My Wife. You'll notice as I'm reading, a few of them are for my wife. Again, Valentine's Day. In the old days, poets took delight in writing poems about their wives. They were not ashamed to admit love sat well in lines of romantic verse. Inked quill in hand, they scratched out rhymes. It was a different time, I know. Men dressed in buckled shoes, silk cravats, long white hose, women wear today. And they donned powdered wigs, wore makeup too. Can you believe what men were back then? Why, I even read somewhere men would sit around the house in Sunday clothes. Not like today where men are men. not panty waists with their white handkerchiefs pulled out of the cuffs of waistcoats to dab their powdered noses. Heaven forbid. Today, men sit before their TV sets in their underwear, drinking beer, or they speed down parkways, raging against other drivers, flipping them off, swearing as if curses were weapons, and weaving in and out of cars was something smart. Not like today, where men wouldn't dream of lavishing their wives with compliments. It was different in those days gone by. Shelley, Keats, and Byron before a fireplace, writing poems to the women they loved. Were they afraid someone would say, "Pansy, what's with this sentimental stuff? Get real, be a man, write rough and tough"? They would have laughed. Why, the night Shelley drowned at sea in the Adriatic, he was drunk on wine and poetry. I'll bet as the water took his life, in his last breath, he was mouthing bubbled odes to Mary, love verses. Poets in the past were unafraid to write poetry to their wives. There was no shame attached, no stigma that would single them out for ridicule. Today, poets write anti-verse against society, against God, the church, whatever they can sink their claws. But I would like to stand this moment in the company of those romantic poets no longer publishing today, all those laureates resting somewhere on their laurels, maybe still writing love poems to their loved ones. I would like to step away from poets today who riddle their poetic lines with profanity, rough-edged and angry, heavy as hammers, sharp as nails. I would like to imitate my poet heroes of the past and say to you, Sharon, my love, in all honesty, these final lines I write for you at the risk of sounding love-struck, a poet lost in time. You are the world to me. In every poem I write, your heart with mine beats between the lines. Thank you. What you say can and will. Choose words carefully. I knew a man once who was murdered by something he said. The razor-sharp turn of his clever phrases sliced full circle back to a gaping mouth and cut away at him until whatever follow-up he intended gurgled in his throat, like meandering water lost in storms, or the panicky pecking of baby birds in their hatching, or like the death rattle of last wishes uttered in vain. A fool I once knew used words so unwisely, he learned on his last day what we say can be quite haunting, that promises made are not meant to be broken, and sooner or later, we do pay for our sins. Thank you. I'm trying to keep it light. You know, my wife is always saying, you come to poetry readings, you read about death and dying. So I throw in tonight, a few humorous attempts. For the sake of art. It is not my own demise I fear, the fact someday I won't be here. I can live with not living anymore. But to croak and leave behind every poem I ever wrote. So for the sake of art, I will certainly endeavor to write off death and live forever. I said to Sharon a couple of days ago, I said, isn't it funny how when you look in a mirror, you're looking at, if you were looking at a person, their left side would be their right side. But if you're looking in a mirror, it's the same. You know, it's a reflection of yourself. So I wrote this called Reflections. On Earth's mirrored planet, HTRAE, my reflected self lives, and it's he I want to be. Las Okima Ikitub. Yes, my name in reverse. But unlike me, who's working, Las is happy writing verse. The only time he's busy and has to drop his pen is when I'm at the mirror and he's reflecting me again. How I wish we could trade places, pass each other through the glass. I'd be Ikitub at the keyboard. He'd be BUTTACI teaching class. Thank you. You say my words. You say my words reek of death and dying. How I meter my lines to draw blood, or trickle down tears, or call attention to the chipping away of granite hearts. You say, write happy poems to move a reader's legs to dancing, wave hands in song, not in drowning. But I don't speak a word in my defense. Instead, I hold your hand in mine and talk down tears scaling up my throat, knowing that day will come when life will sketch a simple line between us, when poems will end or love be mourned forever. Taking on the world. I'll be lifting up the sky again, putting the sun and clouds back where they belong. Tonight the stars will occupy my leisure time, those lazy moments when I will strain with all my strength to bear my shoulders to the weight and standing straight and tall, propel a volley of planets into dark suspension. It has been this way for as long as I can remember. Waking up before the light to deja vu a groggy self through creature habits like some actor in a successful play who says his lines and at the same time thinks a string of unfinished business. Why is it so? Why take the world on? It saddens me that guarantees are not forthcoming. I can slip and fall and crash like crystal. I can stall the blood rhythms of this pulsing heart and tumble somersaulting into abysmal silence. And what if you suddenly woke up delighted in your newfound loneliness, free of me, free of these hands, juggling moon and fiery comets, rid at last of these bruised bones, these eyes that hold you clear as afternoon, even through tears streaking in the wake of your brief absences. Thank you. For my wife, Sharon, when you said, hello, I love you, I saw the red sky divide and roses fall like velvet rain upon petaled flowers, stacking one atop the other till they made me tall and proud. And passers-by said, hey, that man smells good. He must be glad to be alive. I tipped my hat. Now this poem, since Sharon wrote one for me, I purposely wrote this one special for her for Valentine's. It's called a sonnet for Sharon. I don't write very many sonnets. You'll see probably why. If I had chosen then to question how the patient man in time can reap rewards, today I'd still be lonely as a cloud. Those painful years when sorrow's cruel allure would tempt me to the edge of losing faith in all good love that matters in this life. But I kept strong and swore that I would wait for God in his good time to send a wife. How strange those years that seemed to never end. I mourned, like Job, the loss of what I owned. But then somehow the Lord sent Sharon, friend and wife, the dearest soul I've ever known. So this to all whose hearts are filled with pain. Be patient. God can make you whole again. Which hand? In my left, a star. In my right, a beating heart. When I shuffle from one hand to the other, the star pulsates where the heart was beating, and the heart sparkles where the star had shone. I ask you to choose the heart, the star, which hand? Which hand? You say first the left, and then the right. But when I open each palm, in turn, we are both amazed to find only heart prints in a fine dusting of starfall. I'd like to read this poem for my mother. My mother, by the way, is 87 and just came through with a heart valve replacement surgery. So God blessed her, blessed us too. The gift he gave. When God looked out at the world he made and saw how his creatures had forgotten his gift of creation, when God saw the world rich in poverty, ruined by wars and filled with those empty of love, and when God heard the hungry children crying, tricked, abandoned in the streets, when God thought of me, my brothers, my sisters, not yet born into this unsafe world, he created my mother. And my last poem is called Infatuation. A moth and a light bulb fell in love one night. How brightly you shine, said the moth to the light. My, said the bulb, how your pretty wings fly. A moth and a light bulb found romance one night. Ah, this is love, said the moth, with conviction and glee. Is there a chance you might fall in love with me? Oh, yes, said the light bulb. You sweet little thing. Fly up where I'm waiting. Can you hear this heart sing? Fly up. Let's talk, said the bulb to the moth. So its heart all aflutter, it flew up toward the light, where the bulb was there, shining, a small moon in the night. But see how love fizzles, how a fancy thing crashes? The light bulb's still burning, but that moth's gone to ashes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Poetic soul, and he combines powerful words with great expression. Please welcome Jack DeLuca Gross.
The main part for me of all those connections is that I'm friends with Mr. Paul Jussick and Mr. Sal BUTTACI, poetic friends. I will begin with two of my own pieces of poetry, pieces of dreams, pieces of me. Walking. I walk, I waft, I wonder. If the sun shines on me, if the moon glows on my shadow's smile, if the stars dust on my wrinkle twinkle sparkle, do I see this me of the universe? Do I see the universe of me? Do I clearly see through the clouds around? Or am I undone by the darkness that devours my light of night's enlightenment in the dream's seas? Are my own eyes blinded by some? Are my own eyes to some unseeing? Are my own eyes some days, some ways shut to the sun? As I am walking, seeking, as I walk, as I waif, as I wonder, I wonder. Remembering in winter's gray, it seems white and black as yesterday's, walking alone into the woods, in quiet reflection in a mood, with the wind saying words my memory is talking, trying to remember. As I recall, a spring of fall is calling today to me. From when I was so long ago, so in love before my destiny. As still tender thoughts remain today, remembering in winter's call of cold, here in the rain of my short days remains of old. As I walk on, stilled inside the woodland, in soft steps, in moody, muddied strides, with talking trees reflecting in the shadows, as lost loves run around inside my weathered mind, showing their scarecrow branches scraping fate, flying past my lonely days' escape, sharing the raw chill of winter's waits, hearing melting snow that knows the hidden secrets of love's stream, listening liquid ice standing still in pools of past but not forgotten lost dreams that linger in the forest of the lost, while I remain remembering in winter's gray. It seems white and black, but red today, among the forest's dried up leaves of yesterdays.
Blues influences as far as white guys playing the blues. One Mr. Ron McKernan, also known as Pigpen, he took it and kind of made it his own, and since he's gone, I'm trying to keep the torch going. silver dollar and you take a silver dime and you mix it up together in some alligator wine. I can hear the drums and the voodoo all night long. Mr. Charlie tell me can't do nothing wrong. Chuba, chuba, bully, bully, looking high, looking low, whoa, 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 whoa. Gonna scare you up and shoot ya, 'cause Mr. Charlie told me so. Well, Mr. Charlie told me, I thought you'd like to know. Give you a little warning before I let you go. Chuba, 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 bully, 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 looking high, looking low, whoa, whoa, whoa. Gonna scare you up and shoot ya, 'cause Mr. Charlie told me, Mr. Charlie told me so.
Thank you very much, Joey Jacobino. Thank you, Sal. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. I hope you had a good time. Thank you, Mr. Taramina and your fine staff for having us, and we hope to be invited back sometime. Thank you so much. Have a great night and be safe.